Spotlight is proudly sponsored by HEC Media, St. Louis's home for arts, education, and culture.
It's been a gradual process of growth to get to where we are right now.
Take very good pride in what they do and trying to get things right.
More helpful than they will ever really know.
Today on Spotlight, find out the inspiration behind W.C. Handy's St. Louis Blues song. Plus, the conservation of box turtles and why turtle races could cause more harm than good. And then the Union Avenue Opera closes out their 29th season. Meet some of its members. But first, follow the career of a Major League Baseball umpire and find out how to become one. It's Sunday and you're watching the multiple Emmy Award-winning Spotlight.
My name is Rich Rieker. I am the Director of Umpire Development for Major League Baseball. My role is to train all of our umpires from really at the very beginning stages at one of our camps all the way up to evaluation of Major League umpires. And so we basically take them from the very beginning all the way through their careers in the major leagues to the very end. In 1983, I went to Harry Wendelstedt Umpire School, graduated from that, and got placed into the minor leagues. I then continued on through A-Ball and the Midwest League, Eastern League, AA, then the American Association and AAA Alliance, and then worked my first big league game, I believe, in 1992. Every game in the big leagues is notable. Mark McGwire, of course, I was behind home plate for 69 and 70 at the end of that season in 98. It's been a great career for me. I'm very fortunate and blessed to have the opportunity to become a supervisor afterwards and being able to help the umpires in their journey to work out there and make things a little bit smoother for them in those big games was very enjoyable and very rewarding. As an umpire, you want to make sure that the game goes smoothly. You want to be fair, you want to be firm, you want to be impartial. You have to know the rules. And when something does happen on the field, say an ejection or something that might occur, can they bring that situation down? In other words, you don't want an umpire to escalate a situation. You want the umpire to be the cooler head there, sort of like a police officer, and be able to de-escalate the situation and not inflame anybody once it's going. So when we get candidates down at the camps, we look for people that can control the game, because in the lower minor leagues, you're working a 2-umpire system. When you get to AA, it goes to 3, and then AAA 3, Major League's 4-umpire system. So we look for people who can put up with the travel lifestyle of being on the road a lot. The road of a minor league umpire is very difficult and lonely sometimes, but very rewarding as well. In the rule book, the Major League home plate umpire, minor league umpire, or high school umpire that works home plate shall carry an indicator, and it simply has balls, strikes, and outs on it. And that person is in charge of calling and counting balls and strikes. We all think that's pretty easy now with these big scoreboards that we have, but it's still officially whatever the umpire has in his hand is the official count. Weather delays, we are always in contact with the grounds crew. Sometimes they'll actually bring an iPad out with the radar. We are always working with home management. We're always trying to get the games in. We want the fans to see a fairly played ball game in safe conditions. But when it rains too hard and it becomes a safety issue, the umpires will stop play and then decide based on forecasts if and when that game's going to resume. Major League Baseball umpire camps offer free one-day camps around the country. We have 5 camps every year. Those camps are free of charge. They last 4 hours. I bring in a staff of between 15 and 18 experienced Major League people, and we watch these umpires work drills. You know, we do plate work and base work. We put you in the batting cage and watch you call balls and strikes. We have you run on the field. We have you make signals and create plays for you with players out there and try to get the best people in the game. That's what this is all about. And then the top 5 to 10 from each of those 5 camps are invited down to Vero Beach. That's how we get our next year of minor league umpires. You're always going to need umpires to administer a game. Now we have foreign substance checks. We have pitch clock. We have in the minor leagues ABS, which is automatic balls and strikes, referred to as robo-ump. Those are all in experimental stages at the minor leagues. but you're always going to need umpires out there to administer all these things and make sure everybody plays the game fairly. It's a great job. We need umpires at all levels. We're looking to grow umpiring at all levels. There's only 76 Major League umpires. There's only 7 or 8 supervisors. And in the minors, there's about 190 umpires. So it's a pretty small group that take big pride in what they do and trying to get things right. You're never going to be perfect. You're always going to make mistakes. And all we do is try to minimize those. And as I said, try to get the games played in as fair a fashion as we possibly can. So the camps are about training really anyone that wants to come out and learn more about the game.
HEC Media. Recognized, celebrated, honored time and again for excellence in the industry. HEC Media has been bringing home the hardware for over a decade. Arts and education to author talks, magazine shows and documentaries, individual craft achievements to overall excellence. Find all of the award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
History Spotlight, brought to you by HEC Media and the Missouri Historical Society.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jody Sowell, president of the Missouri Historical Society in St. Louis. The song St. Louis Blues is synonymous with St. Louis, but composer W.C. Handy lived here for a very short time. Historian Andrew Wanko explains how his less than stellar time in the city led to one of the most famous compositions in American history.
There have been no shortage of fascinating songs that have featured St. Louis as a theme, but there is one song that is undeniably the most commonly associated song with our city, the St. Louis Blues. The funny part of the story of the St. Louis Blues, though, is that it came from someone who spent just 6 months living in St. Louis and had an absolutely terrible time while he was here. W.C. Handy was a young, aspiring musician from Tennessee, and he realized he had a massive chance at breakthrough success with the 1892 Chicago World's Fair. He set off on the road, but while he was gone, they made a surprise announcement. The fair wasn't quite ready yet, and it would have to be postponed a year. Finding himself alone on the road, he decided he would try his hand in St. Louis, a place where he heard there was ample opportunity for a young musician to make money. When he got here, within weeks, he remembers that he ended up penniless, shirtless, and sleeping on the riverfront beneath the Eads Bridge. He could not find a break into the nightlife and things that were going on here at the time. But it was while he was spending those freezing nights sleeping beneath the Eads Bridge that he had the experience that would later translate into the most famous composition of his lifetime and one of the most famous compositions of American history. One night while he was under the Eads Bridge, he recalls hearing levee workers singing music that he called strange and eerie. It was these one-verse songs that they would repeat over and over and sing along to guitar. While he didn't have a word for what this music was, we would immediately recognize it as the blues today. He went back home to Memphis and traveled around the South and managed to make it as a musician. And by 1914, he was doing much better living back in his home of Memphis, Tennessee. It was then that all of those experiences he had in St. Louis came rushing back to him, and he had the breakthrough idea for a song. He rented a room at a Beale Street hotel for a night, and across the course of a single night, scribbled out the words and music to what became St. Louis Blues. The song was published later that year and instantly became a smash hit. European royalty featured it in their weddings. A division of the Ethiopian army used it as their battle march. This song was a huge international hit, and it became the second most recorded song of the 20th century, behind only Silent Night. So while St. Louis would have no shortage of incredible music to come after W.C. Handy, it was this moment that he had, one of the worst moments of his life in St. Louis, that eventually became one of the most iconic songs to feature our city.
Next week on History Spotlight, the mother of the public kindergarten movement.
To learn more about the Missouri Historical Society, visit mohistory.org.
HEC Films. Explore, inspire, educate, and entertain. HEC Films, just one of the many facets of award-winning content you'll find at hecmedia.org.
Turtle races are historically part of summertime fairs and events in Missouri and across the country.
In many places at county fairs or state fairs, now we've brought, let's say, 30 turtles together from all over the state, and now they're potentially sharing pathogens or those infectious diseases with each other.
Dr. Sharon Deem is the director of the St. Louis Zoo Institute for Conservation Medicine. She has been engaged in studies about the transmission of infectious diseases among box turtles. It's a conservation concern.
Emerging infectious diseases having real population level impacts on a number of different turtle and tortoise species.
Deem has spent years studying box turtle health and movements.
The St. Louis Box Turtle Project started in 2012, and it's a group effort with the St. Louis Zoo, St. Louis University, and Washington University in St. Louis is a part of it.
Through the Box Turtle Project, she's leading researchers and students in Forest Park by tracking individual box turtles. The St. Louis Zoo Institute for Conservation Medicine partners with Dr. Andrea DeRock of Murray State University in Kentucky to understand the movement and health of turtles after they have been used in turtle races.
If you pick up a turtle somewhere and you take it very far away, remember you're not just taking the turtle, you're taking anything that's in that turtle. Any parasite or pathogen or any of those other microbes, and you're moving it to a new area.
When families collect turtles for racing, they usually take them from the wild and rarely return the turtles to the spot where they were taken.
They may bring a turtle, do the race, have a great day, eat their cotton candy, and leave the turtle there. So now we have a turtle that may have come from 100 miles away and want to navigate back home.
The pilot study focuses on the effects of turtle racing on box turtle movement and survival. In the study, they placed radio telemetry devices on turtles that had been in turtle races in Kentucky in 2021. Before releasing the turtles into a local state park in Kentucky for tracking, similar to the tracking seen here in Forest Park. Deem and the research team performed molecular diagnostics to test those turtles for the 4 bad infectious diseases of box turtles in our region prior to the release into a local state park.
4 infectious diseases of real concern, conservation concern. And those are mycoplasma, ranavirus, adenovirus, and herpes virus.
Only turtles negative for all infectious agents were released. Additionally, they performed disease testing on 8 resident turtles already in the Kentucky State Park. And they also place radio telemetry devices on the 8 turtles. Health checks are performed 2 times a year on both groups of turtles. In the same way, the box turtles are monitored for different studies in Forest Park.
And understanding the infectious diseases that these turtles may have brought to a race, picked up at a race, and we're following them with the telemetry devices.
Deem says the goal with the turtle race study is to better understand what health challenges, including death, may be associated with turtles used in turtle races, as well as turtles living in areas where race turtles may be introduced.
People love turtles, right? And we want people to love turtles. And I think really, if you don't understand or think about sort of the bad outcomes that can happen to your turtle, like little Bobby probably loves his turtle that he's bringing to the race, but if you don't think about what it might mean for that turtle or turtles in general, then you might not see why this could be a problem. That's why we need science. We need the data to kind of look at whether the things we believe are true with some of these real challenges for the turtles, if they are true, by bringing the data together.
Scan the QR code on your screen to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Just the combination of words and music together really fascinated me.
Union Avenue Opera was an idea in the making some 30 years ago. At the time, Scott Schoonover was music director at Union Avenue Christian Church. It is a title that he still holds in addition to leading the opera.
It's been a gradual process of growth to get to where we are right now, but it's been an exciting road for sure.
After nearly 3 decades, the opera still holds all of its performances inside the church. Their season finale, Ragtime, is the biggest production of the summer.
And we also have a ton of local people in the cast. In fact, this current cast that we're working with, I think everyone is local except for 1 or 2 people, and it's pretty amazing.
Opera definitely has its own very unique and it demands a lot of technical training.
23-year-old Javi Ojeda is one of the youngest performers with the opera. After taking part in their Young Artist program for a few seasons, it's his first paying gig with the opera. And right now, he's just soaking it all in.
Everybody's here to just share and everything, and we all want each other to succeed because we want to put on this best show, and that's a really great environment to be in because then you just grow as a performer.
And although the newspapers called the shooting the crime of the century, Goldman knew it was only 1906.
It's a really heavy show, but the ensemble is incredible, and getting to meet everyone and sing with them is such a fulfilling experience.
Leah Haimova is an Atlanta transplant and is wrapping up her 4th season with the opera. She tells me that Schoonover has a unique vision with each and every show.
He is such a supportive leader, and he keeps us all to a high professional standard, which I love.
29-year-old Jasmine Owalia is a visiting artist from Pittsburgh. She tried out for the opera during an audition in New York City. And from the very first note, it is easy to see why she landed the job.
I want to continue doing this for as long as I can until the wheels fall off. This is what I believe I was put on the earth to do.
Early on, she says she didn't see that many women who looked like her performing opera, but she pressed on anyway.
And so it was definitely something that I had to struggle with because I didn't really see myself, as a plus-size Black woman on stage. And so it's been really nice having a lot more, girls that look like myself in the industry.
The Mighty Oaks Heart Foundation, later on Spotlight.
My name's Kate Harold. I'm a digital artist. I consider my work photosurrealism. I always wanted to be an artist since I was a little kid. I went to art school. I thought I would be a painter when I went to school, and my first photography class, I just fell in love with the dark room and everything. But then when I got out of school, I worked for some companies and for other photographers and ended up doing a ton of Photoshop work for them. So I just got really practiced with it. Eventually, I just started treating photography completely differently. I started shooting things knowing that I was going to take them apart and edit them. Usually I have a picture in my head before I even start. And sometimes it's like a building or a space that I see and I photograph that inspires the whole piece. And sometimes I've just seen it in my head first, or I have this story in my head. A lot of them have children in the pieces, and that's because I like to think about their imagination when they're playing. And, their imaginations are so boundless that it's really fun to try to create a story that could be going on in their head and putting that on paper. I just want people to have a personal connection to it. Sometimes a piece will make someone laugh, and sometimes it can make them cry. I've seen people cry in my booth, especially some of the more nostalgic looking pieces where it brings them back to their childhood or reminds them of somebody. I just want people to be engaged, so it doesn't have to be my story that they see. I just want them to connect to it and have a story in their head and respond to it in some way.
Today is the last day of the 2023 St. Louis Art Fair. While you're there, don't forget, stop by the Spotlight booth at the corner of Merrimack and Forsyth.
HEC Media, supporting and promoting the arts. Check out our features and shows on theater, dance, music, the visual arts, and more. Find this and all our award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
You can find the stories featured in today's show along with past episodes and more at hecmedia.org/spotlight.
Oaks is my son, who is no longer with us here. He was my second child, my first son, and he was born with a congenital heart defect called truncus arteriosus. Shortly after Oaks was born, we learned about a few other birth defects that he had. He ended up having a double lung transplant when he was about 4 months old. And lived in the hospital for a total of about 15 months.
Are you gonna giggle?
Oaks was such a strong child. He got his nickname Mighty Oaks just because he went through so much as a baby.
Woo! Yeah.
When things were steady, he was a happy kid. He smiled a lot, he sucked his thumb. He loved his big sister, Isla. He flirted with all of the nurses. I didn't realize babies could flirt, but he got that down. He was just a sweet baby, and I always thought, despite his heart and his lungs and all of the physical challenges that he had, I always thought he was just perfect. When Oaks was about 2.5, 3 months old, we learned that he would need a lung transplant. And before he could be listed for a lung transplant, we met with someone from Children's Hospital that was really looking into our insurance. And she sat down with Greg and I and suggested that we do a little fundraiser and come up with this emergency fund. She suggested we raise about $30,000, just in case. We mentioned that to some dear friends, and they ran with that idea. And so they planned, just in a couple months, a golf tournament with like an auction dinner afterwards. And the suggested $30,000, they blew it away. They raised $100,000 for our family in one night. At a certain point, we knew we wouldn't need that money, and we knew that Oaks wasn't going to live a full life. We started giving it away, and we were just meeting families organically there in the Heart Center who were struggling financially. And so at first, I would go to the ATM in the basement and withdraw $100 and put it in an envelope and hand it to a nurse and say, please take this to the mom around the corner, down the hall. Don't tell her it came from me. And eventually a social worker came to me and said, you have got to stop handing out cash in the hospital. This is not sustainable. So while Oaks was in the hospital, going into surgery, recovering, kind of fighting his own fight, I and Greg and a couple of friends were really establishing the foundation of Mighty Oaks Heart Foundation, where we were identifying families who needed help, and then we were awarding financial grants to these families. And since then, you know, that was 12 years ago, we're still doing the same thing, but we're doing it on a bigger scale.
Avery, almost 3. Ben and Logan just turned 1. Halfway through the pregnancy, that Logan's heart was formed perfectly, was normal functioning, and that Ben had the defect. Logan came straight home from the hospital with us. Ben was immediately transferred to Children's at birth. I did not hold him, kiss him that first day of his life. But once we went home with Logan, I was just back and forth to the hospital every single day. We live about 35 minutes from Children's. So every single day, and especially before Logan started daycare, I would take him most of the time by myself, take Logan with me to the hospital to be with Ben all day during the day, and then we'd go home every night.
One of Oak's doctors who gave us the most comforting words. He suggested that the reason that Oaks fought so hard and was so mighty was because Greg and myself and Isla showed up every day. We gave him every reason to fight and every reason to stay with us. And as Oak's mom, knowing I was going to say goodbye to him. That was such a gift. That has always stuck with me as a gift that I want to give to other families.
They were able to provide us financial support, with Ben being in the hospital and me having 2 other small children. I wasn't really able to work, so, we went from a 2-income household to a 1-income household. But it was really important for us to still be able to send our other children to daycare so that I could be there at the hospital for Ben while he was waiting for his heart. So not having to worry about how we were going to pay for things was a huge sense of relief.
It brings back the best memories to see Ben and the Hayes family. Their story's very different than ours. Ben is so different than Oaks, but there's a lot of similarities. Ben clearly is a fighter, and he has some of that perseverance and mightiness that Oaks has. It just fills my heart to know that we've been able to play this small part in supporting them and loving them and giving them the opportunity to stay together as a family unit while Ben has been so sick.
Heart defects and heart disease, they don't care if you are rich or poor, if the parents are young, old, single parents, black, white. Heart defects affect all kinds of families. It's okay to reach out and acknowledge that you do need help, and it is a very scary and trying time to go through. And organizations, especially the Mighty Oaks Heart Foundation, that can give even the slightest bit of relief and take some of that mental load is more helpful than they will ever really know.
As Oaks' mom, it is kind of a dream come true that we can offer that financial support and give those parents a big hug and give them the freedom. Just stay here with your kid, love on them. We know that that is going to be the best medicine that kid gets, and hopefully that love and attention is healing for that family, for that child, and then they can go home just as soon as possible.
Next week, how police officers are helping kids through the PAL program. Plus, meet the Chase Park Plaza theater organist. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.